So, a question that I get asked pretty frequently by UX beginners is UX design a creative career? Here's my take on it. What's up YouTube fam? This is Wesley, UX designer, and welcome back to the channel. Before we begin, as you can tell, the background is a lot different from previous videos, and that's because I just recently moved to LA. It's been about 2 to 3 weeks now, and I've just been really busy settling in, unpacking, and just taking a deep breath and enjoying this new process and new adventure in my life. But now I'm back, ready to do videos more frequently, and I really hope that you guys are still around to watch some of my content, which I'm really appreciative of. All right, back to the question. So UX design, is it creative? Is it not? So let me first answer this very directly. So in my personal opinion, I do believe that UX design is a creative career, but it is not a full-time creative process and career that most people think it is. And let me explain why. Now, from what I've been hearing a lot from other UX designers and even UX design content creator is that most people kind of lean on UX design not being a creative career. And I've been hearing a lot of their perspective and opinions. I totally get it, I understand. But for me to say that it isn't 100% creative, that's where I would beg to differ. And I would love to share with you guys my personal perspective and opinions on that. And yes, I did use the word opinion, so please take it with a grain of salt. These are just my thoughts from my years of being a UX designer. So let's first start off by talking about how I believe it is a creative career. So for me, UX design, it is creative because I get to use creative thinking consistently throughout my job. When somebody thinks about the word creative, I think a lot of people connect that with a tangible hard skill, like being able to draw, sing, dance, or use a prototype / wireframing tool like Figma. But the one thing that people do forget about is the aspect of creative thinking. Now, what is creative thinking? It's the ability to consider something from a fresh, new perspective and angle. It's the ability to look at things differently and figuring out new ways to tackle a problem, challenge, or opportunity. For me as a UX designer, I get to do my work in different ways, and I don't have to achieve my goals in the same way that I've done it in previous projects or product. I'd argue that as a UX designer, you use your creative thinking more than your creative skills, especially when you're doing the UX part of the UX design process, which kind of involves a lot of business, research, and planning. So for example, when I'm in a discovery and framing session where we're trying to understand the different problems that exist and trying to think of different solutions, I use creative thinking to help us identify and prioritize all those different problems and solutions that come up. And you can do that through a lot of different collaborative activities and workshops. When I'm in a workshop with a lot of different people in the same room, I use creative thinking to help me figure out ways to get everyone involved and make sure that everyone is contributing to the work that we do. And to be a part of a career where I can have the freedom to do things differently each time for a different project or product, that is super fulfilling for me and it brings me great joy as an overall creative. And that's why I couldn't see myself being a doctor or an accountant, especially when I was considering all of these different types of career back in college. In those type of jobs, you have to work within a very specific parameter, rules, and guideline, because if you even attempted to do something outside the box, you will be considered crazy, you could get fired, or you could even go to jail. Creative thinking is a set of abilities that isn't talked about enough, in my personal opinion, especially amongst UX beginners and UX boot camps. And I think it's important to talk about that in the way that it shows that problem-solving skills, communication, presentation, storytelling, those are all important aspects to have as a UX designer. And in my opinion, it is a creative process as well. Now, there's obviously the creative skills that do come into play a lot later down the line, especially when you're working on UI design, visuals, and animation. All those aspects are used for your sketches, wireframing, prototype for your final product, and I do enjoy that process to be able to flex that creative skill as well. So the first half of UX design, it involves a lot of that creative thinking and soft skills that I mentioned that you utilize a lot in meetings and workshops. And in the second half of the UX design process, it involves more of that creative skills and tools that you utilize when you're creating your wireframes, prototype, and MVP product. Now, I want to address one more thing. Even though UX design is a creative career, it is not a full-time creative job. Now, what I mean by that is outside of the design, creative thinking, creative skills, you are heavily involved in a lot of the business aspect of the company and product. That means you're working with a lot of stakeholders and business partners, and you're also involved within a lot of these meetings where there's a lot of discussions around the business goals, financial impact, and strategy of a product. And sometimes that can be a very long, meticulous process where you're just consistently in a lot of these business meetings with a lot of business people, making sure that their voices are heard and you guys are all on the same page. As a UX designer, you can't really work on your product until you have that full mutual agreement and support from your stakeholders and business partners. Without their full support, the project will honestly go nowhere. And that's why it's so important to remember the business side and the people that are involved within that area, and you get them involved with your project and your designs. And this whole process, it's not easy, my friends. It requires a lot of soft skills, communication, presenting, storytelling, and all of that is needed when you're a part of these business conversations and just generally as a UX designer. And for these following reasons, that's why a lot of people won't consider UX design to be a creative career. But I also think that all types of creative jobs involve business to a certain degree. It's always going to be a part of your process unless you decide to go freelance, where you can work for yourself and have full autonomy over a project, or you can decide to work for free, but that also means you're not going to make any money. And also, even though a meeting may be all about the business, that doesn't mean creative thinking can't come into play and help you facilitate those type of meetings like I mentioned earlier. So at the end of the day, my final message still stands, as I believe UX design is a creative career with a lot of business constraints, and that is the most realistic expectation of this career. And that's just the way that I believe and see it from my years of being a UX designer. And for myself, being a UX designer, I do feel fulfilled as a creative, and at the end of the day, that's all that matters. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing my perspective and opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comment sections below. I know a lot of people are talking about this question, so I would love to hear from you, and let's have a civilized conversation. Thank you guys again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video, and peace out.